William S. Burroughs.
With his last mooch nickel, Burroughs sneaked off to the payphone and called the law of all the cheap, lousy tricks, Burroughs, to call the law on your old friends. We had a good thing here, Burroughs, good for another maybe 50,000 years, and you cheap little rat called the law, so now we all have to pay. That phone beats the shit out of me. We had you covered, pegged out, cooled. Knocked out, blued, green, the lot. Where is Mary Cook? Who let this little bastard get to that phone? Of all the cheap tricks, Burroughs, of all the lousy, grassy rat tricks, with your last mooch nickel from Geisen, Burroughs called the law. So now we all have to pay. Smart little bastard stands there with his pockets inside out. Very funny, Burroughs, very funny. Sooner or later, some mark we thought we had cooled, or some little rat like Burroughs sneaks off and calls the heat on all of us. Now, Burroughs, you know why we never liked you guys, and what was wrong with both of you from the jump. Wrong bastards, wrong copper-loving bastards. Wise up the marks. Willie the rat has done it again. But how? Where was everybody when he sneaked off to that phone?
Burroughs called the law. William Burroughs, recording in the mid-1960s from the Myths collection, compilation released in 1990. From hippies to punks, the beat generation to the beaten, Mr. Burroughs is a transgenerational hunter. He's a prophet of dystopia, an anti-hero, pathetic and inspiring at the same time. His work begins and continues as a fatalistic quagmire, from which he said he had no choice but to write himself out. Burroughs has become an uncle to a new generation of counterculture, anti-culture disciples. He's 78 years old. He's been resurrected and adopted by a contemporary alternative universe that includes Laurie Anderson, Sonic Youth, John Cale, Debbie Harry, those mythical people in the UK like Psychic TV, the John Giorno Poetry Systems, and the people connected with that, Buttholes, Lydia Lunch, Buster Poindexter, and the Acolytes, Frank Zappa, Mick Jagger, Steely Dan, Soft Machine, and Dead Fingers Talk, these latter having culled their names from his pages. His new friends are Kurt Cobain, the disposable heroes of hypocrisy, and even U2. He's recorded with all of them recently, minus Bono and crew. And of course, there's Bill's cinematic involvements as well, an acting debut while he was well into senior citizendom as a defrocked junkie priest in Gus Van Sant's Drugstore Cowboy, and maybe the ultimate exposure in David Cronenberg's Naked Lunch, a movie not really about the unfilmable novel, but more an exercise in picking the scab off of Burroughs' life. In 1959, Paul Bowles, who hung out with him in Tangiers, said, "When I got to know him, I realized the legend existed in spite of him, not because of him. Didn't give a damn about it."
This text, written in collaboration with Kells Elvins in 1938, commemorates the first appearance of Dr. Benway. It's called Twilight's Last Gleamings. SS America off Jersey coast. Ladies and gentlemen, there is no cause for alarm. We have a minor problem in the boiler room, but everything is now under sound effects of a nuclear blast. Explosion splits the boat. Dr. Benway, ship's doctor, drunkenly added 2 inches to a 4-inch incision with one stroke of his scalpel. "Perhaps the appendix is already out, doctor," the nurse said, and peering dubiously over his shoulder. "I saw a little scar." "The appendix already out." "I'm taking the appendix out." "What do you think I'm doing here?" "Perhaps the appendix is on the left side, doctor. That happens sometimes, you know." "Stop breathing down my neck. I'm coming to that. Don't you think I know where an appendix is? I studied appendectomy in 1904 at Harvard." He lifts the abdominal wall and searches along the incision, dropping ashes from his cigarette. "Get me a new scalpel. This one's got no edge to it." He thrusts a red fist at her. The doctor reels back and flattens against the wall, a bloody scalpel clutched in one hand. The patient slides off the operating table, spilling intestines across the floor. Dr. Benway sweeps instruments, cocaine, and morphine into his satchel. Sour up. I can't be expected to work under such conditions. By the dawn's early light, Dr. Benway pushed through a crowd at the rail and boarded the first lifeboat. "You all right?" he said, seating himself among the women. "I'm the doctor." Thank you.
William S. Burroughs' Sharky's Nights from Mr. Heartbreak, which came out in 1984. William S. Burroughs, before that, Twilight's Last Gleaming, from one of the Giorno Poetry Systems records, You're the Guy I Want to Share My Money With. It came out in 1981. Burroughs is a celebrity. As a writer, his work seems more honored than read. In the 40s, he was identified as belonging to the Times Square circle of poets, junkies, and geniuses that later came to be known as the Beat movement. But Beat was too small to hold this guy. His visions were almost too bleak to be Beat. He was attuned to a cultural and political malaise and rants of Beat, but out of sympathy with most of that group's notions of spiritual enlightenment or universal love. What distinguishes Burroughs from the others and allows him a fluid passage through the decades, and which perhaps explains his appeal today, is his delivery. He's a lyrical, credulously comedic, less didactic quality to his work. And of course, cynicism is always fashionable with someone. There's the postmodern connection. It's the ism that celebrates the death of grand themes and universality. It holds up for worship in its place everything incongruous and individual, with the parts being as worthy as the whole. Burroughs has always maintained a solitary, fatalistic, paranoid, subjective voice in his work. Grandpa punk in a way. In a recent article on him in the Village Voice, it was postulated that one of his great qualities is how he celebrates the individual's freedom to fuck himself up however he chooses. His nihilism, unrelieved despair, and negation, misanthropy, and pessimism all connect deeply with the cultural upheavals following 1960s into the 1970s. I guess what we're trying to say is that Burroughs and Johnny Rotten were made for each other, and had they been born closer in time, they would make excellent retirement home bedfellows.
I got orgasms, I got screams, I got all the images any hit or whatever shit out. My power's coming, my power's coming, my power's coming. I got millions, millions, and millions, millions of images of me. I'm finished, but you're still a lousy fucking thing. Images, millions of images, that's what I got orgasms, I got screams, I got all the images any hit or whatever shit out. My power's coming, my power's coming, my power's coming. He goes into a bait eater, rolling his eyes and frothing at the mouth.
Burroughs with Gus Van Sant performing the music and millions of images from the Elvis of Letters, released in 1985, a compact disc single. Burroughs, the swing to the right in political and cultural orientation in the 1980s has contributed to Uncle Bill's resurrection. There's the central theme in his diseased world, specter of control, a nightmarish universe made up of the controlled and the controllers, who are themselves manipulated by factors as drugs, sex, money, power, religion, or language. Burroughs' work is grotesque and obscene. It's populated with deformities, addictions, and fatalisms, and Bill never rejects his categorization as an oracle of doom. Mine is hardly a voice in the wilderness at this point, he says, rather one voice in a swelling chorus. Burroughs was born in St. Louis, Missouri. The year was 1914. His family was a powerful one. His grandfather invented the adding machine, the royalties from which young William's wealth is based on. The academic credentials are impressive: archaeology and ethnology at Harvard, and a brief stint at medical school in Vienna, which might help explain his fascination with incompetent surgeons. His criminal record is also impressive: possession of morphine, drunken driving, public indecency, narcotics, and the infamous shooting of his wife, Joan, in Mexico City in 1951.